going on in this house?
Never know who might drop in.
I think they're vampires or something.
Now listen up.
The Oggs are here.
They're like a vampire.
We're going in.
This is my favorite bedroom.
Your mission?
So, what's happening tonight, Dad?
Protect those girls from whatever happened to the last ones.
Well, we have to bottle the 2 downstairs, and Sarah's coming in with 6 more tonight.
Hidden cameras in almost every room and a series of traps.
We all have our own very special cravings around here.
But make sure you don't trap someone you should be protecting.
Oh god, oh no, here we go. Oh, okay, some controversy, here we go. How do you even talk about Night Trap now? I mean, the US Congress made a taxpayer-funded ad for it so many years ago now, and said everything you need to know.
Night Trap uses actual actors and achieves an unprecedented level of realism.
It has been quite a leap from Pac-Man to Night Trap.
I mean, there are obviously sexual overtones operating there to a large degree.
There are many magazines out on the market, like the several I brought in here today. These magazines are filled with game tips on how to play the game.
If you don't have the brains or guts for this mission, then give control to someone who does. You can go into a Toys R Us store or a Walmart or a Kmart, and you know as well as I do that you can buy this product.
So 10 out of 10 masterpiece, obviously. It's funny watching that stuff now. Everyone thinks that moron politicians trying to ban things they haven't even done the basic research about is some kind of new idea. It's not. It's literally all they've ever been capable of.
These games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture.
Night Trap, which adds a new dimension of violence specifically targeted against women, is especially repugnant. It ought to be taken off the market entirely.
It is a sick, disgusting video game, in my judgment. Shame on people that produce that trash. It's child abuse, in my judgment.
There is depictions, I believe, although it's hard to prove, but my perception of homophobia operating. I think that there are also things about race in terms of black and color issues.
Fascist Night Trap will never appear on a Nintendo system.
So this game, along with Mortal Kombat, is the reason we have an age rating system for games. So shocking was the content.
Party!
So distasteful and horrific was the boundary pushing of this bang average B-movie PG-13 level schlock horror film that they repurposed into barely a video game. Not long ago, in my capacity as a university lecturer, I actually had to explain to a group of students what an interactive movie actually was, such as the decline of the genre these days. So if you don't know, this was the birth of a genre known as the interactive movie, in which there would be a fully filmed movie, a proper film, with proper actors, real actors and everything, sets, just like a film. But every now and then, the player would be required to do something to make the film continue. Maybe you had to time a button press or select a direction. But if you failed, the film would end prematurely and that would be game over. Depending on the complexity of the game, they might have filmed multiple different narrative paths that would occur, depending on the player's choice, though that was relatively rare. More often than not, you were just trying to get to the end of a pretty linear story. This is an extension of the old Dragon's Lair and Space Ace games, and the primary and possibly only appeal was the fact that these were not pixelated characters. They were real people, real actors. It was an actual film and you were controlling it. That was a massive leap from the cartoony platformers and puzzle games that had come before it on the home consoles. To say it was mind-blowing is an understatement, and you'd be tempted to just put it on to watch the technological marvel playing out in front of you, and not even play the game. Even though the video quality on the Mega CD was pretty shocking, and took place entirely inside a tiny box, taking up easily less than half the screen. But it was the future, damn it, and we loved it.
Relax! Pretend it's a game.
Gameplay-wise, here in Night Trap, you had a house with 8 different camera feeds to choose from, representing different areas of that house. Over the course of an evening, a group of young girls having a sleepover are trying to stay alive amid a huge number of monsters, also known as blokes in black hazmat suits, and your job is to press buttons at the right time in the right place to trap those monsters using the inbuilt booby traps in the house. Every time an ARG, the monsters in question, goes near a trap and you fail to trigger it, it adds to the total. And if you reach an unacceptably low ratio of trapped to missed arcs, the game ends quite abruptly.
Alright, you got this far. But there's still way too many of those zombies running around that you should have trapped. Now, if Kelly's gonna get out of there alive, you've got to do better than that. Nobody said this job was gonna be a piece of cake. Maybe next time you'll make it all the way. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
There are other ways to fail as you progress through the story, with key characters involved in specific scenes you can't afford to miss. And every now and then, someone in the family will change the access code to the traps.
Jeffrey, I want you to go downstairs and change the trap access code from blue to green.
This is set to random, so you can't rely on memorizing the order of the code changes. You have to make sure you hear the dialogue in which they say what the new code is.
Come on, Studley, we better change that code. How about red? Sure.
All of this means that the game essentially becomes an exercise in repetition, so you can memorize where all the arcs are and at what time. You also have to memorize when you have to be in each location to overhear key information. And it means that you rarely get to sit back and actually enjoy the unfolding story with the twists and turns of this family of, spoiler alert, vampires, with all their backstory and motivations. So it's entirely possible, in fact, it's pretty much necessary the first few times through, to finish the game without having much of an idea about what's actually going on. Regardless of all those niggles and limitations, this still felt like playing something from the future. As a kid, I loved films, and I never imagined someone would put me in control of how one unfolds. Regardless of how illusory that impression was, it was hugely impactful. And I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a massive appeal in being something a bit naughty, a bit forbidden. All the controversy over it made it so desirable. It felt like something insanely boundary pushing, despite the fact that there's no swearing, no nudity, and barely any violence in it. I was 10 or 11 years old in 1993, and I would go to extreme lengths to get my hands on something a bit titillating, especially if I wasn't really supposed to have it. You should never underestimate the power of that, especially in the days before internet pornography took all the thrill and challenge out of that kind of thing. This game lived in my mind for many years after, even as better examples of the interactive movie and better narrative-driven games came along, because it has all the charm of one of the very earliest examples of something brand new. It's sincere in its schlockery. It means every word it says. It's not trying to be clever or subversive. It's not even trying to be controversial. It's just trying to be entertaining. And it's a spectacular failure, like one seen from space, which is enough to make it one of the 121 best games of all time for me. Also, you can now play it in far higher quality on Steam, which I highly recommend.
First thing